A team that is kind of interesting though in the same division, the Chargers, their win over under total set at 9.5. I would like the over, but at the same time, I understand that the Chargers are a cursed franchise in the sense of they're always injured. They're always just the most cataclysmically terrible losses that you've ever seen in your life, like the Jaguars playoff game last year. I think their talent is going to overcome that a little bit, but I also think their head coach is a dipshit. So, all these things kind of balance themselves out. 10 games to me seems like a safe bet for the Chargers to win. I'll take the over for them.
See, if you look at the roster and you are like, oh yeah, this roster's stacked. They have studs on studs. It looks really good. Yeah, you take the Chargers, but then you remember, oh, this is the Chargers. They're gonna fail to hit your expectations every single time. The Chargers are on my do not bet on list because literally anything can happen in a Chargers game. We've seen Philip Rivers have like a game-winning drive where he's just like downing the ball and then he muffed the snap and then they lose. Like we've seen everything from the Chargers. So their roster's awesome. Their coaching is not. I know they bring in Kellen Moore. He's an upgrade, but I don't think. I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help Justin Herbert put up better numbers. I don't think it's going to translate to wins. Um, and Brandon Staley is awful, god awful. I have no
Yeah, he's
idea
the
why he's
worst.
still. I don't know why he's still coaching there. His like decisions where he's like, yeah, let's go for it on fourth down every single time. I thought after was it 2 years ago when they lost to the Raiders, he should have been fired. I thought that was like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen on a management standpoint on a football field. Um, but I'm not touching this line, bro. I'm not putting the under because I think they should hit the over, but
Yeah.
you got to remember who we're talking about here.
Yeah, we're talking about the Chargers. You're absolutely correct. The other Los Angeles team, the Rams, set at 6.5. I'm going on the under with that one. I know you're a Rams guy, so I'm going to give you my takes here really quick. I think they're really thin at a lot of spots. I think they're an extremely top heavy roster. Three guys who, yes, are great, but who dealt with big injuries last year: Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, and Aaron Donald. The division, we all know. Well, I know we'll save this for later, but at least one team in the division is good. And the Rams, to me, they're well coached, but outside of that, they don't really have a lot going for them. I'm going under 6.5.
I think the Rams over is one of the easiest bets you can take. 7+ wins, I think is it's obvious if those guys if their big three are healthy. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp are healthy on offense. They're going to be really good. Everything's indicated that Matthew Stafford's kind of back after a long season. I think we have to remember that when you go to the Super Bowl, it's a much longer season. So Matthew Stafford had even more wear and tear than he's used to having. Their offensive line improved. Their running game was good at the end of last season. They added a little bit at wide receiver. I mean, they have Van Jefferson back. He's not anything special, but Tutu Atwell's taken a step. They add Puka Nakua. Their wide receiving core isn't crazy, but you have an elite wide receiver. So that helps. Tyler Higbee is pretty solid. I think their offense is going to be able to be in big time shootouts. And for as much as like they get talked about, like they lost all this stuff, like they didn't really lose anything special. Maybe Bobby Wagner was the biggest guy they lost, right? Like I don't think it was that big of
Jalen Ramsey's
losses.
pretty big, I'd say. I mean,
Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey's massive. Yes.
yeah.
Outside of Jalen Ramsey uh and Bobby Wagner, but like they added like they brought John Johnson back. They have Jordan Fuller. Their young corners looked pretty good last year. It's probably why they end up moving on from Ramsey. But like Aaron Donald's healthy. If Aaron Donald's healthy, their defense is really hanging games and their offense is going to be explosive. They have Sean McVay. Like I think they're going to be. I think that everyone's just written them off, and I think they're going to have a great bounce back season after last year. And I think that they could potentially be a playoff team, and they don't get talked about that. They get talked about more being in the running for the number one pick than being a playoff team. And I honestly think it's kind of outrageous.
I think it's more likely that Caleb Williams is their starting quarterback next year than they would make the playoffs. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you, Matt. But moving on to another team that's going to probably be terrible, the Las Vegas Raiders. I hope you can agree with me on this. 6.5 is their total. I'm taking the under, and that's because Jimmy Garoppolo is their quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is not a good quarterback. Please do not let Kyle Shanahan fool you into believing Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. He isn't. He's never has been. He's bad. The Raiders coaching is bad. Josh McDaniels is arguably one of the worst head coaches in the NFL, I would say. They don't have a good defense either to make up for it. 6.5 is too high. I'm going under.
Yeah, I'll be easily going under on the Raiders. Their defense was Swiss cheese last year. They got Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, and a whole lot of nothing outside of that. They added Marcus Peters. Nice, man. He's gonna get cooked every single night.
38-year-old Marcus Peters is going to be great, dude. I promise you.
The Raiders are gonna be awful. The Raiders are legitimately going to be in the race for Caleb Williams. I think more than a lot of people expect. One, Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't ever play a full season, like
Yeah.
done like twice. Um, and he's also terrible. Like he's awful. I think people like look at his numbers. No, he did okay. It's like yeah, he had everything handed to him, and the Niners would win despite him throwing like some abysmal pick or you. I don't know if anyone remembers the Packers game on Sunday Night Football when he literally started spinning around 3 times and threw the ball behind him. Like this, he sucks. He's awful.
Don't forget when he ran out of the
The
back of his own
Josh
end zone, Matt. I mean, come on, Dan Orlovsky imitation.
and threw a pick six on the same play.
Yep. Yep.
Like
And it was better because they got the safety because he ran out. So it was actually a better play that whatever. It's just yeah, he's
they're gonna be terrible. Josh McDaniels is gonna get fired. They're probably gonna have the first or second pick in the draft. The Raiders are gonna be a disaster. Probably gonna trade Devontae Adams. They're only like real. It's like oh yeah, it's an elite player. Like that's him and Crosby are like the only guys. So
yeah,
it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be so bad
it
in
is
Las
gonna be really
Vegas this
bad in
year.
Vegas this year. I'm sorry. Miami sitting at 9.5. Now, this is really just dependent on how healthy Tua is. If you told me Tua played 14, 15, 16 games, I would take the over. If he played less than that, I'd probably be a little skeptical because I don't love Skylar Thompson, unfortunately. Miami 9.5 games. It just depends on Tua. That's my whole take. Give me tell me the amount of games that Tua plays, and I'll tell you if they win more than 9.5 games.
Yeah, I mean, adding Jalen Ramsey is going to be massive for them. Their defense should improve. Still some question marks in terms of how well they're going to defend the run. Offensively, we know they're good. I like the Devon A. Chain pick. I think he's going to add a little bit more explosiveness to their offense. Obviously, they got the studs on the outside in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I'm not a big Tua guy necessarily, but you're 100% right. It's going to depend is Tua on the field because the drop off from Tua to Skylar Thompson is wild, man. So, and the thing is, Tua has so many injury concerns, so that's why we talk about him more than like other backup quarterbacks. So I think it's going to completely depend on Tua. I'm not going to touch it because I don't know if Tua is going to be healthy. And I honestly think like they should be a playoff team, but I don't know, man. I think the AFC is so stacked that I won't be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. Like even if Tua is healthy, like
Yeah, this is a team where it's just so it's not a bet I would make with high confidence. You know what I'm saying? Because they could look great first 5 weeks, concussion, he's out 3-4 weeks, and it's like oh the season is now they're 5-4 and they're barely 500, right? Going on to Minnesota, their over under is set at 8.5, dead even. I am a believer that the Vikings will have a big regression from last season. They won 11 one-score games. They had the biggest comeback in the history of the NFL. They had a game in which they won because Josh Allen fumbled the ball on his own goal line. They scored a touchdown, and Justin Jefferson made one of the most ridiculous catches you'll ever see. I'm a big believer in the Minnesota Vikings downfall this season. I'm going to go under 8.5 wins. I know it's aggressive for a team that won 13, but sorry.
yeah, I completely disagree. I think I'm not going to bet their over under. I'm going to bet them to make the playoffs because they're probably should get the fifth, sixth, or seventh seed if they don't win the NFC North. Um, their offense got better. They lost Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook wasn't really that great last year. They had a couple backs. It's running back by committee. It's whatever. It's not that big of a deal. They are going to have a full year of TJ Hawkinson. They add Jordan Addison, who I think is a stud. They have another year basically rocking with the exact same offensive line. So there's continuity there. Kirk was great last year. Their defense, yeah, they traded some older guys away. Those guys weren't good anymore. Those guys were getting cooked. So they're either going to be a little bit better on defense or they're going to be about the same. They're not going to be worse. Like they weren't good last year on defense. They were bad last year on defense. So I don't know, man. I think you're wrong. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a wild card team or they're going to win that division. I know
Wow.
everyone is like on the hyping up the Lions like crazy.
That is a spicy take, I will say. This is a team, New England, 6.5, right? And my heart, it tells me to look at this Patriots roster and how unspectacular it is, and to say go under 6.5. But everything that I've learned about the game of football over my 20 years tells me do not bet a Bill Belichick team to win 6 games in a year. So I will have to bet the over on this game, not because I like their roster, not because I like Mac Jones, not because their defense is super talented. It's because of Bill Belichick. And it's that is the driving force for me betting the over. 7-10 is probably the floor for a Bill Belichick team. I'll have to go over for the Patriots this year.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's funny is like 6.5 wins for a Bill Belichick team that has a good defense. What? I'm easily taking that. I didn't even realize that that's how low it was. So I'm betting. I'm putting some money on that. Matthew Judon has turned into a star with Bill Belichick. They just had Keon White. He's been getting super hyped up in training camp. Christian Gonzalez. He's probably going to turn into an elite corner because any talented corner that goes to New England becomes an elite corner. So they're going to be really good on defense, and they're going to be able to run the football. Yeah, the wide receivers aren't great. They're not that exciting. They're going to be able to run the football. You add in Zeke, you add Ramondre Stevenson had a pretty good year last year. Like those two guys complement each other is going to be nice. They're going to win close games where they run the football and they play good defense and it's ugly and they're going to win. They're going to be an average team and 6.5 is way too low. They're probably going to win 8 to 10 games. So,
Yeah.
or maybe more like 8 to 9, but like still like six and a
Yeah.
half is a joke.
7 is just I just can't pick a Belichick team going 6-11. I just can't do that. Um the Saints sitting at 9.5. Now, a big upgrade at quarterback in Derek Carr, a bad division, really good receivers. Realistically, you'd like to think the Saints team is going to be able to win 10 games, but I worry about their defense, man. Their defense is old. Their defense is old. Tyrann Mathieu is old. Cameron Jordan is like close to his AARP benefits. He's old, man. I mean, their defense is getting old. I really don't like Dennis Allen. I mean, he's a career 30% win percentage guy as a head coach. I don't love their coach. Their defense is old. I kind of like their offense. Kamara's going to miss 3 games. So to me, it's kind of a back and forth. I probably wouldn't touch this one just because I think that's right around where they're going to be. If you had to make me bet, I'd probably go over and say they barely win 10 games. But what do you think, Matt?
They have the easiest schedule in the league and they play basically no elite quarterbacks. So if their defense gets banged up, they're probably going to be fine because they're a talented defense. Yeah, they have old guys. You're 100% right. Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu. Who else I got? I mean, those are the main guys, but like you still
Lattimore's,
have
I mean,
Marshall.
not young either. I mean, he's not old, but he's not young, anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they're good, dude. Like their roster is just so much better than everyone in the South, and they have far and away the easiest schedule in the NFL. So I think they're gonna win. They don't play any elite quarterbacks. They
Yeah.
don't need Derek Carr to be great, but like they're gonna be like an unspectacular like most likely they're gonna be an unspectacular 10-win team, 11-win team. Like
Yeah,
it's
I could
just
see
gonna be
that.
like, oh, they beat no one and then got bounced in the first round.
I could see that. I could see that. Speaking of unspectacular teams, New York Giants, they're over under set at 7.5. Feels kind of disrespectful for a team that won a playoff game last year, but at the same time, I am not a Daniel Jones believer. I will say they really don't have a lot of weapons on offense. Their offensive line outside of Andrew Thomas isn't great. I feel like they really overachieved last year, and I think they're going to come back to earth a little bit. They're going to regress to the mean a little bit. I know you're a Giants guy, so I'll let you cook in just 1 second. I would still probably go for the over on the Giants. I think 8 or 9 wins is probably what they're going to be like. I really can't see them just completely falling off and like winning like 5, 6 games. I'll go the over, but I do think that they are going to regress quite a bit this year.
7.5 over under for the Giants is pretty disrespectful considering they got quite a bit better. Daniel Jones was awesome last year for them. I mean, I know that numbers aren't like anything crazy, but he was good. He was clutch. He was really good, and he ended up winning a lot of games for them. Their wide receiver core got a lot better. They add Paris Campbell. They draft Jalen Hyatt. They bring in Darren Waller. They have Evan Neal too. You didn't mention him on the O line. He's good as well. So I mean, they have a lot of building blocks. Bobby Okereke, I like him. Another year with Kayvon Thibodeau on that D line. They add Ashawn Robinson. They still have Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams. Like they're good, dude. Their defense is really good. That's the thing. And their defense got better. They drafted a first round corner. I think they're going to be a lot better. They added Dory Jackson just as like a little. I think they added him. I don't know. Maybe they added him the year before. But they're going to be good, I think. And I think dropping them. What did they win last year? Like 10, 11? They were pretty good last year.
I think they won
Um,
I think they won 10 last year. I'll look it up though.
yeah, I mean, I would be really surprised if they lost 3 less games last year when they got significantly better, and it's another year in Brian Daboll's system. So I think Daniel Jones is going to continue to ascend. in terms of like film, I think his film has got better every single year he's been in the league. Um, Numbers aren't really going to tell you that, but you also have to remember, like, look at the downfall of his receiving core from like his rookie year to like now, like, or I guess last year. And he was working with pretty much nothing. So I think they're going to be a lot better. And I think there's a couple of moves they've made that add some vets that are kind of underrated guys now. So I like the Giants a lot. Not like to be anything crazy, but to exceed those expectations.
Yeah, last year they went 9-7-1. It's a little bit worse than I remember, to be honest. I thought they were a little bit better than that. They went 9-7-1, so we'll have to see. The other New York team, though, is getting a lot of attention, especially because they're on Hard Knocks right now. They have a new quarterback. Maybe you've heard of him. His name's Aaron Rodgers. The New York Jets over under is 9.5. I am going to go over with this one, and the sole reason I'm going to go over with this one is they won 7 games last year with statistically the 3 worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Mike White, Joe Flacco, and Zach Wilson were putrid last year. They were awful, disgusting. The defense was great. Now you're adding in Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't even need to be prime MVP version of Aaron Rodgers to be such a significant upgrade from those 3 guys. That is a 2-3 win improvement even on its own. We're not even accounting for the year 2 leaps of Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. Quinnen Williams is still going to be a great defensive tackle. I like Robert Saleh. Maybe it's the Hard Knocks hype, but give me the Jets over.
Yeah, for the Jets, I mean, it should be good. What do you say the over was? 9.5?
Yeah, 9.5. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Their defense is good. Um, I think they get a little bit overrated. I think 9.5 is fair though. I mean, they should win double-digit games at the very least. I don't know how much noise they're going to make in the playoffs necessarily, but I think they got a good roster. They got a good running back room. They got overall a good defense. They're just really good. And then you add Aaron Rodgers to the mix. And last year they weren't far off from that, to be honest. Like, and they had maybe the worst quarterback room in the whole league. So if they continue to get a little bit better, if Garrett Wilson takes a jump, if Sauce takes another jump, like that's going to be a super exciting future until Aaron Rodgers leaves.
Yeah, they have the definition of a window right now. They have like 2-3 years to get it done, or else they're gonna be going back to the shitter for a while. The Eagles, speaking of Super Bowl windows, the Eagles are set at 11.5. I think that's way too low. Last year they won 14 games. You're gonna tell me they're gonna be 3 games worse when they got much better. They got arguably the best player in the draft. They got a lot. They have speed now on the edge with Nolan Smith. They took some good corners, Keely Ringo. They just got all the Georgia football players. They just got all the Georgia football players. They have assembled them into one team. Got DeAndre Swift. The Eagles, I would argue, got better, and they went 14-3 last year. 11.5 feels like a very disrespectful number. I understand the bookies can't go too high on the win over unders, but 11.5 seems low for me. I'm gonna smash the over for Eagles.
Yeah, I like the Eagles 11.5 too. Like to go over on that. I think they got better. I think maybe they could be like one of those teams that kind of gets banged up after a Super Bowl and doesn't gets the back to the same point. But overall, I mean, the Eagles they're a good roster. They're a good team. It's a 2-man race between them and the Niners and the NFC, in my opinion. So I think 12 plus wins is pretty easy.
Yeah, and the other Pennsylvania team, Pittsburgh Steelers, are set at 8.5. I'm gonna take the over. Listen, I'm not a big believer in Kenny Pickett. I know I have people that I talk to on a daily basis, Maddox, who like think Kenny Pickett is the greatest shit since sliced bread. I'm not going to go that far. I don't think he's bad. I think he's kind of limited, unfortunately. Their offense, it's got some nice pieces. Najee, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. They added some good blocking players in the draft, and the defense is obviously going to be good with the full season of J.J. Watt. And that's honestly probably what I like most about this team is that defense. When T.J. Watt plays, the Steelers are just a different team. And assuming he can stay healthy, the Steelers are going to probably be over 500. Mike Tomlin has never finished a season under 500. So by definition, you would tell me to go 9-8 and could take the over. I will take the over for the Steelers, and I will probably not feel great about it.
Yeah, you take the over because they're gonna go 9-8, man. Like that's what I'm expecting from them. I feel like they did get a lot better in terms of how their rushing offense is going to look. Najee Harris being healthy, that could be massive. He's probably like the guy I have my eyes on most for like week one. Like, okay, does he look like he's got some of his quickness back after that foot injury? And how did the offensive line additions? Was it Broderick Jones? They also add Darnell Washington as a tight end, who's basically an extra tackle for you. I think they signed someone as well. So their offensive line got a lot better. Their run game should be a lot better. Their defense, they had one addition that I really liked. They added Pat Peterson, who some people think he's washed. He's not washed. He was good last year. He was really good last year. Now the year before, it was either the year before or the year before that, he was bad. Like he was really bad. But last year he had he had a bit of a resurgence. So I think that's a great addition there. I like everything they did, but I just don't think they're going to be like that special. I think they're going to be like over 500 barely, maybe make the playoffs, but have no chance to make any noise in that AFC.
Yeah. By the way, the guy you were referencing that they signed Alex Miliano, the guard from the Eagles, who was really good last year as well. That's who they signed. Now going on to my Seattle Seahawks, and I know we're gonna have a spit fight over this. 9.5. I'm smashing it. Here's why. The Seahawks last year went 9-8, and what they did in this offseason was they acquired the draft's best receiver in Jackson Smith and Jigba, arguably the draft's best corner in Devin Witherspoon. In the draft, second round, they got Thunder to Kent Walker's Lightning and K9. You got a year two leap for a lot of the great rookies that played last year. Most notably, I think we're going to see a big jump in the tackles, Charles Cross and Abe Lucas. Geno Smith is going to be, again, a good quarterback. Like last year, his film was really good. The offense is going to be better. The defense is going to be much better. They made a lot of good free agent signings. Draymond Jones. They got back Bobby Wagner. I don't know how the Seahawks are worse than they were last year. They were 9-8 last year. I think that the run defense was just such a kryptonite. And if we could solve that, we're going to win more games. I'm taking the Seahawks to win 11 or 12 games. And I think 9.5 is pretty good. And I'm going to go over on that.
I mean, you can take the over on 9.5. I think that could be the case. I don't know what their schedule looks like. But in terms of like getting better, like they definitely got better. But I think whenever we get like a rookie class, it's like really easy to overrate the rookie class before they actually get on the field. Like the Seahawks, when they made the Legion of Boom, they had a couple really good draft classes, and then they just didn't have like any good draft classes for a long time. Last year they had a good draft class, so then everyone immediately appoints this draft class as like so amazing, and let's wait and see a little bit. Either way, though, I do think they're better. Jackson Smith and Jigba is pretty solid. He's like kind of a he's just like a solid. He's going to be a solid wide receiver two in the league, I think. Maybe he's better than that, maybe he's not, but like he has a very high floor, so he's going to probably be able to produce right away. So the receivers got better. The biggest thing is Geno Smith going to be the same guy that he was last year? Because up until last season, Geno Smith was pretty terrible, and he didn't finish the season that hot. He looked kind of bad. Every time he played the Niners, he got absolutely destroyed. So is the film going to come out in Geno and the league's going to kind of figure him out? Maybe. I don't really think that's going to be the case, but it's something to at least watch, especially early on in the year to see like, okay, how does Geno look? Because if Geno's not good, then they're going to be in trouble and then they might not be as good. But in terms of the roster definitely got better.
Yeah, I think the season does to some degree hinge on Geno. I have faith in him. I think he's going to be good again this year, but you're right. If Geno's bad, then the rest of it just kind of doesn't matter, unfortunately. Now, at least though, we have our first round picks for the first time in like 15 years. So if we're bad, we can, maybe draft one of the best quarterbacks next year. Now to your San Francisco 49ers, I also really like this line, and I hate hyping up the 49ers. 10.5. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good number for the 49ers in terms of betting. I'm gonna go over. I'm not really gonna think about it. I am not. I think Vegas is looking at the quarterback situation you guys got going on, and it isn't great. I will say I don't think it's great, but it doesn't need to be great, man. You guys got Fred Warner, Nick Bosa on defense. On offense, you have all pros like it's going out of style. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time gassing you guys up. You guys know you're good. A 10.5 is over, in my opinion. It's a pretty easy bet.
Yeah, the line used to be 11.5, and I was easily going to take the over on that as well. The NFC sucks. That's one thing. The Niners own the Rams. They swept the Seahawks last year, and the Cardinals suck. They ran through their division last season. Um, their defense, people are going to be like, oh, they lost this guy. They lost, these little pieces. They lost Jimmy Ward. That's probably the biggest loss they had. Uh, they added Javon Hargrave. Their defensive line is going to be back to 2019 level defensive line, except now they have better pieces around him. They got Fred and Dre at linebacker. They have a pretty good secondary, even despite not having like the best corners, but just overall they got pretty good guys around in the secondary. And what are you doing to block this D line? You have to double Eric Armstead and you have to double Javon Hargrave. If you don't, they're going to win their battle unless it's against Jason Kelsey. It's probably the only one. Well, that's two doubles. That's four offensive linemen. So what does that mean? It means you got to chip Nick Bosa with your tight end or your running back and go basically 2-on-1 against him. And then whoever else is on the outside, whether that's Drake Jackson taking a step this year, Robert Beal Jr., who they drafted, Kerry Hyder, Cleveland Farrell, whoever it is, is going to be one-on-one every single play. Like, that's rough, dude. And that's holding an extra guy back. So their defensive line is going to absolutely dominate. The only reason this line isn't higher is because there's questions about the quarterback room. And let's be honest, that is stupid. This is a better quarterback room than they've had almost every year. Most of the quarterback rooms were Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins. This year, they have Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold. Guys, Jimmy's not good.
I mean,
The
that's
only
like the battle of mid, though. That's not really like comparing apples. It's like, I mean, Brock Purdy, yes, he was good last year, but like nobody, I'm not saying he's bad, but like nobody had film on him, and he did a lot of, he got lucky in certain instances, I will say. Trey Lance and Sam Darnold are bad. I mean, let's call a spade there, Matt. They're bad.
I
Um,
mean, we've seen 4 games of Trey. I don't think he's
Kyle
anything super
Shanahan thinks he's
special.
bad, dude. I mean, Kyle Shanahan thinks he's bad, then he's got to be pretty bad, you know?
I mean, when Sam Darnold's been on the field with anything competent around him, he's been okay.
Oh my God.
For a
We out
backup,
here
we're
hyping up
talking about
Sam Darnold,
backups.
dude. We are
We're talking
not
about
hyping up
backups.
Sam Darnold right now.
We're talking about backups, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, they have 3 guys. You throw in Joe Schmo in Kyle's offense, and he's probably going to put up numbers. That's the bigger part is that
Yeah, that's
your
why I said
offense is
you don't really need a great quarterback, though. That's the thing.
no,
Yeah.
you just need someone that can deliver the ball a little bit, and they have a better quarterback room than they've had in any year prior, outside maybe last year because they had Jimmy instead of Sam. Like, that's who else? Like Brian Hoyer and Jimmy and Nick Mullins and Jimmy. Like, no, that's bad, dude. I'd rather have Brock Purdy than Jimmy. I'd rather rock with a wild card of him. Jimmy was awful. Like,
Yeah.
I think like them being tanked because the quarterback room is just like dumb because they didn't have a good quarterback room. The quarterback room was the issue when Jimmy was there. It's not
Yeah.
like it's like addition by subtraction by not having Jimmy anymore. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't know, man. I think it's just and what happens if their quarterbacks are bad? Oh, their defense carries them, and Christian McCaffrey goes for a buck 50 and 2 tutties every game. Okay, they're winning that. They're gonna win. They're gonna win
Yeah.
double-digit games easy. So
Yeah. I'm sick
I
of
don't know
talking
why
about the
there's I don't
49ers,
know
bro.
why people are freaking out.
I'm sick of talking about the 49ers. Let's move on to a different team. A team that I really like for the line that I really like, the Buccaneers. Their line is at 6.5, which is insane to me. That is just insanity, bro. I think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. And I'm smashing the under. I'm not thinking about it. Baker Mayfield is garbage. The offense is garbage. The defense is old, and part of it is garbage. Like, tell me why Vegas has the Buccaneers winning 7 games this year.
Because their defense isn't bad. They were extremely injured last year. They had no O line. If their O line improves and they can run the football a little bit, don't get me wrong, they're not exciting. They're not exciting, but I do think there's a chance that they hit the over. If I had the bet, I'd hit the under too. But they still got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the outside. That's still pretty nice. I mean, like it's not anything exciting, but their offensive line should be a lot better. They were super banged up last season, so if their offensive line is a little bit better, um, I mean, I'm not trying to talk myself into hyping up the Bucks, all right? But I could see them winning like 7 games, but most likely it would be like 5 win team or something like that.
All right, and then ending off, we got 2 more teams. Tennessee 7.5. I'm gonna go with the under on that one. Mike Vrabel doesn't have the same power I think that Bill Belichick does, and they have big question marks at quarterback. I think Derrick Henry. I don't think people are ready for the conversation that Derrick Henry could be, falling off a cliff here pretty soon. He's getting older. I understand he's still dominant up until this point. Their receiver room is garbage. Their defense is probably better than I give it credit for. I think 7 wins is fair for this team. I'll probably go under for Tennessee.
I strongly disagree. I think Tennessee is an easy over on 7.5, just because their quarterback room isn't super exciting, but it's better than it was last year. I mean, they were rocking with Josh Dobbs to close out the season. Malik Willis apparently has been better. Ryan Tannehill is healthy, and they draft Levis. Once again, not super exciting. Their wide receiver room is like night and day to last year, though. Traylon Burks was going to be raw. He wasn't going to be good in his rookie season. He's apparently taking big jumps. They add DeAndre Hopkins, Mike. Well, you're gonna say their wide receiver room sucks. They have DeAndre Hopkins. All right, let's
Well, one
calm
guy
down. He
doesn't
almost
make the
averaged.
whole room. I mean, can you tell me who their
I
receiver
know. I just gave you
behind?
2 guys.
Yeah, I mean, Traylon Burks, unproven. DeAndre Hopkins is, yes, very proven, but he's getting older. I mean, he's not going to be the same DeAndre Hopkins he's been years ago.
He averaged almost 100 yards a game last year, with with Trace McSorley and Colt McCoy throwing him half the ball half the games. So I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is washed at all. Okonkwo, I actually really like him. He looked really good last year, flashed a lot, and their defense got better. They added some pieces. They get Aziz Al-Shazir for the Niners. They get a lot of guys back from injury. If Jeffrey Simmons and Kevin Byard are healthy, I think they're going to win 8. I think they're going to probably be an over 500 team. I would be surprised if they're not, man. I think they got a lot better this year. If Derrick Henry gets hurt, everything goes out the window because like he's like completely controls their season every year. But I think their defense is better than it's been the past few years. I think they're going to be like a sneaky team. Like I like the Titans to be a lot better than what most people think.
All right, bro. And then ending it off, we have the Washington Commanders, 6.5 wins. And I'll probably that's a line that I probably won't touch because there's just so much variance. Is Sam Howell good? Can the defensive line be as dominant as it's been in years past? Can it be healthy? Is Ron Rivera going to get fired at the end of the year? There's so many questions, like big questions I have. I just don't know enough about this team. I'm not going to touch this line. I honestly don't even have like a prediction. You could say maybe over, maybe under. I have no idea. Matt, do you have any strong opinions on the Washington Commanders?
No, I don't. I mean, my only opinion is like they have a really underrated wide receiver room. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel is pretty nasty actually. So I really like the receiver room. But like it's just gonna be like, is Sam Howell a lot better than people think? Brian Robinson apparently said that he wasn't even playing like that healthy last year after he got shot and came back like mid-season.
Well, I
So
mean,
if
yeah,
he,
that makes sense.
yeah, it does. um, but like it's gonna come down to like, is Sam Howell a lot better than we think? If he is, then like okay, that's exciting. If he's not, Ron Rivera probably gets fired and they probably hit a little bit of reset with new ownership. So it's like I don't even know, bro. Like they're probably not gonna be good. And their division's super good now.
hmm
Like it's really good now.
The other
So
three teams made
their
the
defense,
playoffs last season. I mean, come on.
yeah, and they probably all got better.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, I'll probably go under for the Commanders, but this was our first kind of episode on team over under totals for this upcoming season. Like I said, Matt's going to be joining me every single week during the season to talk about our favorite bets for the week for the upcoming games. So if you guys are going to enjoy that, or if you guys want to see more videos with Matt, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Let us know what you think of our picks down below, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace out.